We're live. Emma Watts, you're the first. Katie Johnston. Emma beat you, Katie, this morning. Katie Johnston, good morning. Hope you're well.
Morning, Kelly.
Pickard.
Morning, Emma.
Pull things up over here, shall we?
Do you know what? I've had a headache since I woke up this morning. Why don't I just take an effing paracetamol?
I don't know. Why don't you? Why won't you?
I'm going to take a paracetamol.
There's always some underlying health reason never to take something.
It's not good to just take pills, but
Well, there you go.
take one.
That's it.
Enough is enough. I've waited all morning. I've done everything I can.
I'm worried the veins around the side of my head are bulging more than normal. Should I worry about that? Maybe that's because I'm losing fat around my forehead. Can you get forehead fat? Can you get forehead fat?
Do I need to worry that I've got pins and needles in my heels of my feet?
I literally don't know about that. I mean, I'd give you an answer, but it'd be a stab in the dark. No, but maybe you do. I don't know. Do you need to worry about pins and needles in your feet? Right, guys, I'm going to be straight with you. I'm feeling really shit today, but I'm really pleased that I'm here with you to share in some thoughts about the day. It's going to be the hottest day of the year. It's going to be the hottest day of the year, which means that everyone and his wife is going to be out. Rightly so, enjoying the exercise that they can, hopefully observing social distancing. The police have said they're not going to try and manage it. They can't manage it. It's ridiculous saying that they can. They are trusting that the public are going to simply observe health and safety for their own good.
Is that what they've said?
Yeah, pretty much. That's what the headlines I've read. The country is split down the middle. There are those who live on the coast and in these beauty spots who would rather a lot of visiting people would sod off. And then there
I would if I lived by the coast.
I think I would too.
I'd be like, oh, F off.
Yeah, a lot of people in Cornwall don't want people visiting Cornwall. And I don't think that's because they're being mean. I think it's because they're self-isolating as a county. So hot weather in this set of circumstances is a curious one, isn't it? So later today, I'm going to be social distance meeting Nanny Di.
I love the way we always have to put that caveat
Well, you just have to put every caveat in because there'll be some arsehole somewhere who goes, oh, I saw you in the house, mate. But anyway, so yeah, social distancing. But I am going to be handing her a book that I've ordered her on Amazon, but I'm going to place it in a bag. I'm going to pop it on the end of a hook on a fishing rod, and I'm going to cast it across the River Thames towards her. So no one can get me on that either.
You can, Charlene. Shout out for Charlene.
Yeah, Nadia, shout out Charlene. Nadia shared with me the story in South Korea, which is good, that you can't catch the virus twice. That was a good story that you said yesterday, wasn't it?
So basically, they've discovered that, and they've done quite a few studies on this, but they're pretty damn sure now. Pretty damn sure. And we've got something we're going to share with you on that on one of the vlogs. We're not going to tell them yet.
Yeah, curious. So what's the news today? We had a lovely dinner last night with Izzy, and she said, oh, I watch your Coffeed to kind of get a sort of snapshot.
Morning, Izzy, if you're with us.
Izzy, if you're there, sweetie. To get a snapshot of what the sort of news headlines. It's a curious news flow today. The biggest news, I think, is the schools fiasco that's developing in this country.
Yeah.
Massive state of confusion when... I think it could have all been removed and we could all stop blaming each other. I do find it really annoying the way the Daily Mail is trying to foment this huge conflict between the teachers and the government and the public, really.
I've just got a few messages here from friends
saying things like, let our teachers be heroes. That's such a passive aggressive thing by the Daily Mail. Let our teachers be heroes. We don't need you to say that. Teachers, and we all know that schools want to go back. No one's work shy. No one's kind of going, you know. So I think we can do without that shit. But what is a cause for concern is, safety and making sure that all the right sort of checks and measures and social distancing requirements are in place.
Just got a few messages here from friends of ours that are teachers that want to stay anonymous.
You're right. Someone has just said that there has been an increase in France. I've tried to unpack that headline. 17 new cases in infections from schools. Is that actually a dramatic number relative to the country? I don't know.
I mean, a lot of the argument for schools going back is because of vulnerable children. And this is just an excerpt from some of the messages that we've been having from friends of ours that are teachers. I understand that agencies are worried for vulnerable children coming from complex backgrounds. But why is that on
Tracy
the
Gillett.
education system?
Sorry, say they got an word for vulnerable children coming from complex backgrounds. Why is that on the
Education.
What do you mean?
But why should it be the education system that is worrying about vulnerable children and therefore putting the whole of the schools back because of that? We are there to teach, not to be social workers. And why is a teacher's health and well-being less important than those children? Surely it should be equal. I think I mostly hate the way teachers have been treated. No involvement in decisions or praise for what we've already been doing. I've already been in school for the past month, risking my life and providing remote learning. And this one also has 2 children she's having to homeschool as well. And now it's the teacher's job to get the economy up and running. It's too much.
Yeah, no, but that goes back to the Daily Mail. Suddenly, it's just the teacher's responsibility on this decision. It's no one else's.
To get the economy back.
It's no one else's. And if there are some very valid concerns about the speed and rapidity with which it's all just being, let's face it, cobbled together, suddenly it's the teachers and the teaching unions. You know, teaching unions aren't there just to be anti-Tory.
No, they're looking after
their staff, their members.
Their members and the children.
Yeah.
And the children.
Yeah.
And just a final one on that. This teacher friend of ours says, please can you ask people to imagine it's your daughter, your husband or your best friend who is teaching. Are you happy for them to jump into this situation? It's too easy to be dismissive about low potential harm unless it's your loved one taking the risk.
Yeah.
It's true.
I'm just changing the title as well on our live for later if people want to add to the kind of conversation. Because although this has obviously been the hot topic, the hot potato topic of the week, there's the school fiasco. And then there's what will undoubtedly be the biggest, most shameful story to emerge out of the whole crisis, which is the care home fiasco. So you've got schools at both ends of the age spectrum. You've got schools and then you've got care homes. And I have to admit, the word, you know, I'm aware of the story, but you seem to have been plugged into it a bit more than me, Nads. But, you know, the government have made a tacit acknowledgement today. The Justice Secretary has admitted that they did formally prioritise the NHS above care homes. But I have to say I was a bit slow on the uptake with this. I didn't realise they were farming elderly people out of hospitals and into care homes.
Well, I think some of the argument for that was that they are going back to their home to die. That was one of the arguments that I'd heard.
Oh, right.
That there was nothing left for them to do.
Okay.
But then the problem was and is that because the NHS have been prioritised, all PPE equipment, all the drugs, everything, because I watched this documentary the other day, I don't know if any of you saw it on the care homes, was all prioritised for the NHS. And they were talking to various people in various different care homes. And there was this one when she was saying, we got to the point where we were going out and buying kids' sterilising tablets and marigolds because we couldn't get any equipment. So we had people in the care home dying, no oxygen, no medication. I mean, they've been through absolute hell, people working in the care system. Absolute hell.
Belinda Sharon makes a good point. It's hard because they might not have had anywhere else to go.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think it is about them going home and going... But I do think, how can you do that as a government without also equipping those care homes for what they need? And as we know, one after another carer has gone down with COVID. And then there was quite a few of the different care home owners talking about how a lot of staff just were too terrified to come in. So they're massively understaffed, no equipment, no drugs, no oxygen, just an appalling state of affairs.
Do you remember James, who was talking to us, a teenager talking about worrying he's got a problem with alcohol? In a good place today, Nadia Mark. Going to be hard though, nice day. My brothers are having a barbecue and no doubt they'll be drinking. What to do in a situation like that is so hard.
Really hard.
I would find a way. Do you know what? If they're big drinkers and other people are drinking, they're not even going to know that you're not drinking after the first 3 drinks. Most people who are drinking aren't interested in the status of other people drinking or not after the first 2 or 3 drinks. It's usually that awkward beginning, isn't it? So if you can just get through that first 5-10 minutes and let them get going on a couple of beers.
Drink loads of Diet Coke.
Drink loads of Diet Coke.
And the other thing is, just watch them, because as they get drunker and drunker, you'll be like, God, I'm so glad that's
not to
me.
say I mean, look, here's the thing. There's nothing worse than a recovering alcoholic saying everyone who drinks is poor. It's not true. I had an absolutely fantastic time drinking when I was drinking, and then it just became an absolutely terrible time. So, the point is that a lot of people can have a lot of fun, but also people do get very repetitive and very, very bloody boring.
What about explaining to James the thing of first thought, second thought?
Yeah, first thought, second thought. So the first thought is to have a drink, but then the second thought...
Because you think, that'll be fun, I'll chill out, I'll relax.
But then what you usually find is that after the first drink, the second thought is then really a second, third, fourth and fifth drink, because you're chasing a dream, you're chasing something. It's a fool's gold. If you imagine that your brain is creating a totally artificial destination of sheer joy and wonder with a drink, and let's face it, whenever any of us, even when we've had a good time on drink, the next day ended up in a place of joy and wonder. I don't think
just
it
think
ever
about
happens.
the regret that you're going to have, and it can that's what I do when sometimes when I feel like, God, you know what, I just feel like getting smashed. I think, tomorrow I'm going to feel like shit.
And something else that creeps into those social situations. We'll talk about this when we do the kind of drinking live thing. I think it's really useful to have partners. I think like Sober Dave's doing with his wife, I think it's a really good thing they're doing. Ask questions, what's it like for the partner? But something else that happens with those social situations is, I tell you what is a component of my feeling awkward around not drinking, is a sense of being socially rushed. There's often a sense of, I don't know if you've noticed, when people dinner parties or when you arrive at things, everyone's a bit frantic. Everyone's a bit frantic because they want to get a drink in them so they can relax. So it really is a case of, if you can get through the hump, if you like, the threshold of that first 5, 10, 15 minutes, you'll suddenly realise that most of what you were worrying about and the reasoning you thought you should have a drink or might want a drink, they evaporate, because the reality of the situation is far more normal and boring than you think. And then in many ways, you can have a better time because you're going to be staying sober.
Ashley, check out Ashley Gardner's YouTube and Instagram. He's telling us here that he's made a film about mental health issues. We've watched it. It's really good, Ashley. You're a great guy. So
Catherine Clausen, they feel that the virus is dying out in Denmark. Yeah, we keep hearing great news from Denmark.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Danes have got something superb going on there. But I am also hearing that the death count in Sweden's high and the highest per capita in Europe or something. And Brazil is struggling like mad, which is probably not helped by having a president that was a complete disbeliever in anything. So Brazil is really under the cosh at the moment. Good news for the Danes. Yeah, absolutely good news for the Danes. Sarah Elliott, alcohol is such a depressant if you're low anyway. Yeah, it's a fool's gold.
Oh, it does make you
depressed.
It's
such a fool's gold.
It just does make you depressed. It really does. It is an actual depressant. So if you remember that, if you've been feeling low and you're struggling with not having a drink, remember it will make you feel worse, for sure. The first drink might make you feel a bit better, but everything past the first drink will make you feel worse.
What it promises you, it rapidly takes away.
Well, somebody said there, what do you think about this model that's being touted about of 50 days lockdown with 30 days freedom? Do you remember I was reading
What,
an article about it this morning, suggested by a top scientist. Can't remember what country's
in there. For now or for when we first
No, as a way to move on with the virus and kill it completely, is to do 50 days of lockdown, 30 days off, back and forth.
Oh, what? Keep going back and
Yeah.
forth doing it? Well, it's weird because I kind of feel that's what we should have done to begin with. Short, sharp shocks. Well, I don't know. What do you think of that? Wouldn't that constantly start the economy?
I think 50 days is too much.
50 days is a long time.
It's way too much.
I
think a week on, a week off, a week on, a week off.
I think it's going to die out, and I think we have to have our wits about us for the winter. That's all I think. I just think it's genuinely, combined with the idea, I know it doesn't die with warm weather, but let's we've got so many ways of getting around it. We're shielding the elderly, we're all social distancing, we're all wearing masks, we're all washing our hands.
Maybe that's going to be enough.
That will be enough to manage it now, but I think, again, and this is why I genuinely think that doesn't mean necessarily you just open the schools, because I saw a number of people just then saying, teachers, say they were to go back on June the 1st, we're what, 10 days away? Loads of teachers, there's nothing prepared. They're all in a state of complete confusion. Are we going to be in a situation where we're kind of getting yardsticks out the
And
week
our
before?
friends are saying it's an absolute joke. You cannot do 2 meters. The kids will not do it. And of course, I was watching a news item the other day, and there was a head teacher showing every area of the school. She said, just as they go through the corridor here, they're not at 2 meters.
Yeah.
Just as they go to this part of the classroom, they're not at 2 meters. We
Yeah.
can't make it. I think there's more heads against it than for it, isn't there?
Yeah. And also, have you noticed that there's a tendency creeping into the government, given the fact that we can't see Boris Johnson anywhere, and we're not seeing any of them anywhere, are we?
He went for a
big
run
players.
this morning.
Oh, did he? Oh, good.
He
I'm
looks
pleased for him.
awful.
Oh, right. But have you noticed that they're already turning on their scientists? Have you noticed that?
It's starting.
Follow
what
the
we
science.
said would happen.
Yeah. So the government is bashing the scientists. The very science that they told us to follow, that they said they were following, they're now smacking
Not
it.
so
Now,
sure.
now here's the thing about that. This is a very dangerous move, believe me. This is going to be a very dangerous, not just because I'm a huge defender of Mr. Whitty, because I've got a man crush on him, but on a more serious note, you start knocking the science
That you pushed at
that
us.
you've pushed at us and that you've been promoting as what you're not going to get the same levels of cooperation when the next crisis comes along. Because people are going to be like, oh, fuck that shit. I ain't doing
I
that.
feel so sorry for the scientists because what they've done is given their ideas, given their
Yeah,
analysis.
they haven't
and then the
suggested
government
policy.
have decided the policy.
Yeah.
And every single time they get criticised on that briefing, they say, we have followed the science. We have followed the science.
Yeah.
And I always think if those two scientists stood up there, it must be like, hang on a minute. We've just given you ideas, models. Because the thing is, every scientist, every lead scientist in every country that is dealing with COVID, it thinks something different.
Right. I think we've got the biggest, the most deceitful, the most scapegoaty government you could possibly hope for. And some of this is with the benefit of hindsight. I said last night, I think they've shamefully, it's been joyful what's happened with Captain Tom, but it's been a great distraction. That's why they've thrown all their efforts behind it, and unfortunately, why they've given him a knighthood isn't just about all the wonderful charity work he's done. It's a brilliant distraction. It's a brilliant distraction to keep that sort of pseudo-VE, Churchillian, keep the Union Jacks waving. They've done all of that stuff. On the one level, we are all brilliant as Brits because we've all pulled together, but on another, the government's done that as a way to distract.
Yeah.
They're going to scapegoat all of the scientists and the science. They've made the lockdown coming out, going in.
Exactly. They need to publish the science. They've been having meetings. Who said that? That is so true.
Yeah, because it's policy. We're responding to policy. We're not actually angry with the scientists. We know that there's lots of different science from different sources. But there's not just that. They're scapegoating the scientists now. They've distracted the population with pseudo bloody, national bloody war effort stuff in order to kind of give a sense of pride and aren't we all brilliant? And at the same time, they're about to scapegoat the teachers, because let's face it, the Daily Mail is the mouthpiece of this government. And they've made us all so unclear. They've been so unclear in their guidance with us that if it goes terribly wrong, and it won't, but if it did, they could point the finger at us. They are washing their hands, terrible pun, but they're washing their hands of everything all the time.
Nadine Ann, the tyranny of science, divide and conquer, shocking carry on, need objective science, not subjective. It's convenient that science differs so politicians can blame science. Exactly. Ashley J, my auntie is 63 and tested positive for COVID. She's not had one symptom. Anyone can have this, guys. Be careful. Well, that's interesting. Because you do tend to think of older people will always have symptoms.
Yeah.
That's why, though we're convinced Maddie had it, people have said to us, yeah, but you would have had it because you're older and you would have had it worse. But that's not true. We could be symptomless then.
I mean, someone there said the James Jim Bob Smith is toying with the most terrible. Maybe Boris Johnson's coronavirus scare was the ultimate distraction. Terrible thing is, right? Here's the situation. We're not suggesting for a minute that that's happened, but isn't it terrible?
Tom, that's sweet.
Isn't
He
it?
follows what we guys think and say. It's keeping me
bless.
safe and sane.
Isn't it terrible and an indictment of our system that we could even potentially think that of our leaders?
Well, because they haven't given us any reason to not question now every single thing they say. Belinda Sharon, I agree with you on this. It reminds me of when they blame the firefighters and people in the flats for Grenfell.
Yes.
I mean, let's not forget that outrage.
So true.
So true.
So true. I mean, next...
They were hauling them... Oh, God, I was going to say hauling them over the coals. One thing to say. But do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was shocking what they did to that. The woman. Do you remember what are they called, the bosses of the fire? What are they called?
Don't know.
The woman that was in charge of all the firefighters. Commissioner, yeah. Yeah, it was shocking. She'd had like 30 years of service, hadn't she? Like, unblemished. They didn't mind blaming her.
What's it you call when people hand over the shit stick? It's like what's the phrase you always use?
Sorry, I got up at 5. I haven't had much
You always
sleep.
say it's about passing the shit stick around.
Pass the shit stick.
Pass the shit. That's what this government does. You wait. There'll be the next level of people to blame. It will be, there'll be someone else responsible for this, and it will never be the government responsible for this. I promise you.
Was it? Paul Jones says the briefing last night was so awkward, tension, anger pouring from the scientists.
Yes,
really? I didn't see that.
I did catch.
Do you know what? I couldn't face it yesterday.
No,
I thought, same old shit.
But I did catch something from LBC where they were doing some post-match analysis of the briefing. And there was something. There was the suggestion, wasn't there, from one of the scientists there, that the government had been insufficient. I mean, I think we're going to see scientists I think we're going to see them splitting away. I think that's why Chris Whitty's looking so fucking unhappy, because he knows that in his job he has to give facts as best as he's got them. And then policy is something very, very different. And I think the British public have been the government's trying to gaslight the British public.
I think we should see what is being said in those meetings. I mean, it affects us.
Elizabeth Gordon, they've got lots of
They need
history and
more
knowledge of mass
transparency.
social brainwashing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want. I am not. I can't stand the whole conspiracy theory thing. But what this crisis does remind us, and I think this is why I feel a bit down today, is that it reminds us of how much we all, in a way, hand over our own individual responsibilities to ourselves and just place it in the hands of people. We assume know better and have our best interests at heart. And I've got a terrible confession to make. We do hand them over, and in many ways, for the system to work, we have to hand them over. But believe you me, they don't always have our best interests at heart.
They really don't.
And that's the most. I think that's
we
what
all
worries
knew all
me.
of our instincts. Everyone that you talked to, all of our instincts were, why didn't you just lock it down early? I will keep asking this fucking question. Why wait for a peak when you can shut it down earlier, like they have in all those countries where they now are almost virus-free?
Yeah.
Why did we keep being told, we've got to reach this peak? We were all going, why? Why? Well, because if we start the lockdown too early, then people won't stay in lockdown. Well, you're going to stay in lockdown a lot longer if you've waited for a peak. I'll never understand
And what
it.
annoys me is
because herd immunity isn't a thing.
Yeah, and I tell you, absolutely another strategy of this government, another strategy, is that as we get to a place of relative safety compared to where we've been, there's going to be, they know that the appetite of the population is going to be hungry to escape and move to pastures green. And at that point is when they'll hope and trust that all these questions will be forgotten, that they'll evaporate, that they'll be able to say, we are here, we've got here, that, they've played it just so oblique so that they can take credit if it works and have no responsibility if it doesn't.
Oh my God, we need to watch this briefing. Georgina Duffy says briefing was a squirm fest, science versus spin. We have to watch it. Kerry Enswhistle, have you seen the independent SAGE meetings? They are ex-SAGE and Who magazine. No, I keep banging on about this. We never watched it. Was it interesting? Also, I just want to, Dr. Natalie Blue, I work at a university and won't be back until January 2021. Busy working from home apart from having a nice break, catching up on your channel. Thank you. Universities aren't back till 2021.
Well, Cambridge
how come
isn't.
primary school is going to be?
Well,
Come January, come a couple of weeks, possibly.
And a really good point was made last night by someone on the press preview on Sky News, which is very good because they bring in pundits from all sort of political parts of the spectrum, And someone said, why don't we ask Eton when they're going back to school?
Ooh.
And then follow suit?
There's a real bloody...
Because I don't think Eton's going to school on June the 1st. Bit like Cambridge Uni. Do you see what I'm saying?
Apparently last night the scientists, sorry, I just caught a bit of it. Apparently they were saying yesterday that the tracing, tracking, testing is very important and we're nowhere near that.
Shambolic.
Oh, here we go. Scientists last night intimated strongly testing still wasn't done quickly, efficiently enough. Said science advises government implements or does. Thank you. That's just what we keep saying with that bloody speech. Tell me when you're going to test, trace and isolate. Test, trace and isolate. We need to march in the streets with a 2-metre distance. Just go, test, trace, isolate. Test, trace, isolate. We need bloody millions of us.
Janet Smith confirms Eton are going back in September. So if Eton are going back in September...
There you go.
Why the hell are we making the masses...
Because they want people, because it's childcare to get people, the teachers are being used as childcare to get the economy back up and running. And people going to Eton have got enough money, they don't need to worry.
The thing that gets me crossest
There's a
in
real
life is
divide
injustice.
here.
Injustice,
There's a real
and I'm
divide.
feeling such injustice socially.
There was a woman on the telly the other day talking about the lack of communication skills. She was a very, very smart, articulate, eloquent woman. And she was talking about the massive fails that the government have made in communicating to us. And, you know, she was pointing out, and I hadn't really thought of it that way, that it's a real... There's a real division in what he's allowing to happen. So people can have cleaners, right? How many people have actually got a cleaner that comes into their home? People can have their nannies back to work.
We're talking about upper middle class
Yeah,
again now.
so it was a very there's a big class divide, and she said that will start to cause real unrest, and people are going to start saying, hang on a minute, but I still can't have my nan round, or I still can't go and see my mum in the garden, but I can have my cleaner and my nanny. I wonder if chauffeurs are allowed back.
Oh, chauffeurs, yes, chauffeurs.
I wonder if chauffeurs.
Yeah, butlers?
Butlers?
I wonder if butlers?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Wet nurses? Wet nurses still exist? Could we get the wet nurse?
Yeah, we will watch it in full. Everyone's saying we need to watch it. It's very strange. We must watch that. The briefing from yesterday.
Well, it's fine. Please
It's
remind
funny because I turned it on and it was sort of a grey-looking man that I didn't know who he was. I thought, oh, obviously there's no news. They've sent somebody out we don't know.
Georgina Duffy, give your mum a tenner to clean your loo. I might call my mum and ask her to clean her downstairs toilet.
That's what we were all saying yesterday.
Mum.
I was having a Zoom with some friends and we were saying, get your friends and family to be your cleaners.
Well, Sabrina Neal, my thoughts on China as they started it to stop the riots that were all over the news in Hong Kong.
So we'll never know this puzzle, will we? It will be a puzzle that will puzzle us till our dying day. It really will. We agree. We love Dr. Chong Campbell. We watch him a lot on YouTube. Check him out. Check out his film on vitamin D. I think once you do, you might have some ideas on whether you want to take it or not.
I hope Keir Starmer puts old Boris through the miller again today. Yeah. I think Keir's playing it very cleverly as the opposition. I think he's got to go gently and he's got to go slowly and he's got to go measuredly and he's got to take the pulse of the nation's concerns. But there does come a point where actually he has to get him in a headlock, wrestle him to the floor and get a count of 10 out of him. Because it's really pissing me off. I'm in that kind of mood today. If I saw Boris, I'd knock him off his bike. I would. Can't be having it. Anyway, guys, lots of love. Mental health lives will be happening later in the week and will be popping up when our members live is happening. Is it Wednesday today? It's not happening tonight, but it probably is happening tomorrow. Lots of love, guys.
Lots of love.
Follow us on Instagram if you don't. Nadia Sawalha and family, Mark_Adderley, the Popcorn Junkies.
We might do the members live in the daytime.
Ooh.
Why do we do it?
Why don't we do a poll? Why don't we ask all our members what time they like it? I think a lot of people like it in the evening though.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah,
all right.
We'll see.
Bye,
Take care, guys. Bye, 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 bye.